Welcome back to Kanell and Bell. The NBA has been the source of a global controversy here with the what's unfolding with China and the NBA as Daryl Morey's 7-word tweet. I remind you, 7 words he tweeted out have caused one of the biggest messes that Adam Silver has had to deal with in his tenure as the commissioner of the NBA. I felt like this is a no-win situation for Adam Silver. I think he's doing his best. He's getting kicked while he's down from people that have criticized the NBA, saying you need to take a stronger stance against China. China, on the other hand, is kind of taking control of this, saying, hold on a second. We don't think you just saying, hey, Daryl Morey has free speech in the U.S. That's not enough. They have been upset about it, and there was a lot of concern. Would the game take place between the Lakers and Nets this morning, which is actually 7:30 p.m. over there? It was 7:30 a.m. here. Ultimately, the game did tip off, but the NBA spokesman informed reporters there would be no media availability of any kind for any player or Commissioner Silver's previously scheduled pregame press conference, which was canceled. Chinese flags were distributed outside. Before the starting lineups were announced, there was no singing of either national anthem, nor not the Star Spangled Banner or the Chinese March of the Volunteers. I don't know, Raja. I think the best thing that the NBA can see happen is to get the heck out of Dodge, get back over here, get the regular season started, and hope that time makes this thing go away, because it's not going away anytime soon. And the longer they're there and having to deal with situations like this, it just gets uglier and uglier. So I think there's going to be a lot of dollars that are lost, and the only thing that's going to heal this is time.
Yeah, you're in a no-win situation. I have no problem with the way it played out. You don't need any more remarks while you're over there in China, and while you've got, NBA franchises and support staffs over there in China, right? Like, you don't want anything to potentially go wrong. So I have no problem with them shutting down the press availability and stuff like that. You get plenty of press. Like, they'll be home in 2 days. You could get all the press sound bites you want, right? Let them get out of China. Let them play the game. And then, Danny, look, you're right. At this point, the damage is pretty much done. All you can do now, stop talking about it, hope that cooler heads kind of prevail, and you guys are able to kind of salvage a relationship. I will say again, and I'm going to double down on this, and I know we're not a political show. For everyone that has like this major beef with NBA players not standing up to China, and their beef would be because these guys have a voice nationally here in the U.S. when it comes to social matters, I would again say to you that those issues that they champion for here in the United States are their issues. They are our issues. They're our country's issues. They're things that they feel on a day-to-day basis. And so they will stand up and say that. They have the right to do that in this country. Those are things that affect them. They're things that affect their family members. While the Chinese government, I'm not getting into whether or not it's their job to say that they support it or not. It's not their country, though. Like, do you know what I mean, Danny? And that's what I would say. That would be the only difference. Now, the NBA and all the politics and the billions of dollars that come with China, I'm not in the NBA anymore. I have no vested interest in that. I would just say, though, that it's a difference between like highlighting the social issues in your country that affect you and your family members and going out there and dealing in politics that you know nothing really about.
I do. I hear what you're saying. Here's the only pushback I would give you is that the NBA has really positioned itself as this politically active, outspoken league. Like, hey, we don't care about the money. We're going to go out there and we're going to be more than an athlete. We're going to be activists. We're going to be out there in the community, which is all good things. But it does take away from their overall perception when they all of a sudden, when there's billions of dollars at stake, all of a sudden they get quiet. Even though it's international, there are some pretty egregious, human rights violations that take place where you would say, hey, wouldn't it just be basic human decency? You would say, maybe that's not a good idea. And they have really tiptoed around it. Like, they have not said anything. Steph Curry was on the record yesterday saying, hey, I don't know about Chinese history. And he's right. I mean, I don't either. Neither do you. But they have really kind of, tiptoed around this. And for them to get shut up by China before this game, I just think it takes a little bit away from their legacy of this group of players. And even the players themselves have criticized Michael Jordan and players before them for saying, hey, they put money above doing the right thing. And they wouldn't go out there and say anything politically because they wanted the money, when really this is probably what this is all about. It is protecting billions of dollars, which I don't blame him. I would if I was an NBA player and I had James Harden has a $200 million contract with Adidas. There are major implications if Adidas, all of a sudden can't be sold in China. So I get it, but then don't portray yourself as these people who are fearless and then go say whatever you want. And it's not about the money when it's just like every other league that it is a lot about the dollar
It,
line. Does that make sense? Like, is that a fair
no,
pushback?
it is. But what I would say to that is just because I have a voice when it comes to things that affect me in this country, it doesn't mean that I have to be a fearless advocate for every person around the world. Like if I choose to use my platform to stand up for equal rights in America, that does not mean that I am obligated to stand up and have a voice against communism or socialism or fascism or anything like that. One doesn't make me have to do the other. So like that would be my only pushback. Like, like you're making it sound like just because someone stands up against police brutality in this country, they're obligated to then stand up against everybody who oppresses anyone in the world. And I disagree with that.
Agreed. I think we're just kind of semantics. It's just one thing because I have no problem with players speaking out against police brutality and taking voices and using their voices here. I guess I would just say to them, be careful criticizing others who don't, because I think that's everybody's right. Some NBA players, some NFL players, some of them are a little bit quieter. They don't get as politically active, and I think that's okay too. Like everybody has their right. Some guys do it for different reasons. There was some news in the game itself, which unfolded. Is Kyrie, who was dealing with this facial fracture that he suffered in the offseason, he goes out in the game, doesn't play very much because he left the game after getting hit in the face by Rondo. My question to you is, why would he be playing in the first place if he has this facial fracture? Like, are you surprised that he was even out there?
No, because he was wearing his protective mask. I saw it live. Like Rondo just kind of, he gets the ball stripped and he just kind of flips the back of his hand up and it catches Kyrie in the mask. I don't think this is a story. Like, I think Kyrie probably got hit in the face. It stung for a second. You're always a little startled when you get smacked in the face. I would not imagine that this has any real impact on his facial fracture that exists. I don't know to what degree it's healed, but even if it were to kind of re-aggravate it, you're just basically playing with the mask anyway. So
I think too it would be a case where if it was the regular season, he probably can keep playing, right? I mean that's where I look at this was originally like, why is he playing in this situation? And then he gets it bumped just a little bit and it was overly precautious, which I totally understand at this point in the season. Like, get him out of there. But if this is playoffs or something, you're crazy. He's definitely going to continue that play. Do you think this is a part of a bigger problem with Kyrie, though, as he's been plagued with injuries going back to his time at Duke when he hardly played at all throughout his career in the NBA? There aren't many seasons you could point at and say, hey, he gave us a full season there. Is this a bigger problem for Kyrie?
I don't know. I don't have the answer. I mean, his track record, certainly has a lot of injuries on it. You would hope that some of those were freak. Like I dealt with the knee injury. I forget what year that was in the Cavs' first run to the finals. When the kneecap, he had the fracture in it. I think that was an old skateboarding accident. The doctor said that it existed. Like that's a freak thing. That's not something that necessarily you could account for. So there's some of that. But if you're Brooklyn and you've already got an injured KD, which you cannot afford by any stretch of the imagination, is to pay all that money for an injured KD. But Kyrie's going to be healthy, and then Kyrie goes down. Ultimately, I don't think it's a big deal. I think he'll be okay. But it is fair to wonder, Danny, because he has been injured in the past.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not calling him soft or anything. Some guys' bodies just don't handle the rigors of a professional schedule, whether it's NFL or NBA. And I don't know. I think it's something to keep an eye on for him.